All right. Hello and welcome to the show. Um, this week, I wanted to do a special episode as we're going to be celebrating Christmas. For those of you that celebrate Christmas, this is obviously a special time of year. And for those of you that don't, that's okay. I mean, just this the holiday season. There's several different, holidays and belief systems. So, I just personally celebrate Christmas. So I wanted to make an episode about it. And I want to make an episode about finding joy this week and really just in your life in general and some practical ways to go about that. So before we dive in, if you're looking for support for OCD and anxiety, I have some links right down in the notes where you can get started at Restored Minds. And so one's a free guide, one's a 2-day intensive workshop that I did, and then we also have our 12-week program called Taking Back Control, and there's different levels of that, all the way from self-study to group to individual. So if it's something that you're looking for, especially as we move into the new year, please contact us. Check out our free guide, fill out an application on the site, and we'll be able to reach out to you and let you know how we can support you. So I just wanted to say that ahead of time. And if you've benefited from the show this year in any way, please do us a favor real quick and just like and subscribe, as well as go as far to even leave a comment or review on iTunes. It helps the show, it helps the algorithm, and it helps the show get out to more people. So let's talk about joy. You know, I was thinking about, I was kind of sitting there just, doing like a kind of a brief meditation of like what I should talk about today or what the show should be about today. Because sometimes I just ad lib. And just kind of kept coming back to the idea of joy. And, one of the reasons was I was just at my daughter's, she's 3. And so they did this little musical at her school, and she sang Joy to the World. And I was just thinking about the word joy. It's just kind of just been on my mind and my heart a little bit over the last few weeks, what that means and how we find that. Because I think a lot of people pursue joy, and especially with OCD and anxiety, things can get dark. Things can get dark. And through that, I think there's this idea of pursuing joy to counter the darkness. And I want to offer some ideas about how I've learned to bring joy in my life, right? And just kind of 3 simple ways, right? And for whatever it's worth, if you look and consider applying these, then I hope it brings you joy as well. And that really is the point of the show today. I'm not really going to talk about OCD and anxiety as much as about just like a practicality of joy and bringing it into your life and finding it in your life, I should say. So joy, when I was looking up definitions, it's an elated state of happiness, right? It's I think one definition said like, getting the thing you want. It's a hard thing to find, but at the end of the day, joy is an emotional state. And what we never want to do is set an emotional state as a goal, because emotions change, right? They're just going to ebb and flow with life, right? And so the problem is if we set our goal to be joy, or to feel joy or to feel happy, the issue is that we'll be chasing a feeling state. And even if we reach that feeling state, it's inevitably gonna, our feeling state is gonna change, and then we're in this endless pursuit of trying to always get our feeling state to a certain place. And how most of us go about that is by changing the external world, right? Whether it's, hey, I need to get this job, or I need to get this promotion, I need to get this spouse, I need to get married, I need to have a kid, I need to have 2 kids, I need to retire, I need to, and we put this goal out in the future, and we think that by reaching that goal, that's going to bring us to the state that we want. And that's, I think how most people actually live life. When I'm really transparent and had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people over the years. And what I've found is that when I set goals, and when you think about why we set goals, right, it's because we think that reaching that goal is going to bring us to a certain state. And the problem with that is that our we're always putting our well-being or our, feeling good in the future, and we're pursuing it. And oftentimes the goal is set out of the idea of, I don't feel good now and I want to feel good. And it's just our our mind's ability to come up with what that might, like, what thing we need to do in order to get there. Instead, though, and this is just a way that I've kind of shifted this year, instead of thinking about joy being a futuristic, or anything for that matter, right? A futuristic thing that I need to, bring into my life by doing a certain thing, whatever that is. The another way to go about it is potentially looking at finding it right now. Like, and I know this sounds crazy because some of you that might be listening and you might be in a really tough spot right now and be like, well, I can't find it right now. It's impossible. I feel anxious, I feel depressed. Things are spinning, all that stuff. And I get it. And so what I want to talk about today are just some three ways that I go about trying to find joy, and realizing that joy is within myself. It's not outside of me. The only place joy exists is in here. It doesn't exist in the outside world. That's where you feel it. You feel it inside, right? And so why are you looking outside in the first place? Number one, right? That's just like just a starting question. But so here's some things that I have found joy in, right? I should say. And what I mean by that is I've found the experience of joy in these things. And so the first is simple, and it's just this idea of gratitude. And there's different ways of going about this, and you can find the one that's best for you. But I mean, really, like when you think about your internal state, what happens a lot of times is that we are focusing on something in our mind that is directly altering our internal state. And so if we have the power to do that in a negative capacity, meaning if we can focus on something that bugs us or bothers us or angers us, and then literally have that feeling emerge in the body, then we also have the ability to do that in a positive way. And the act of gratitude, the act of, paying gratitude or sitting in a state of gratitude can elevate you. It really can. But what you have to do, though, is you have to really focus on. So like when I'm doing gratitude, I think about the things I'm grateful for. And, I start with my wife. I start with my daughter. Probably the two most important people in my life, right? And then I, expand, and move into my parents, my brother, my new sister-in-law, my in-laws, my extended family, right? My good friends, right? Restored Minds, the business that I get to run, right? The clients that I have, right? All of that stuff. And as I start to focus on that, what I really try to do is really feel grateful, like, and really feel it inside. And I mean, and focus on it with the intention of feeling that feeling of gratitude, not just saying I'm grateful for something, not just writing down on a piece of paper, hey, I'm grateful for this, or I'm grateful for health, or I'm grateful for, no. I mean, I'm talking about really aiming to feel it inside. That is a challenging thing, especially for people, I think, that have OCD and anxiety, or who I should say wrestle with that, because at the end of the day, people who wrestle with OCD and anxiety and depression, in my experience, have a very difficult time feeling feelings. In fact, most of the efforts that the people engage in are an attempt not to feel feelings. And your ability to feel feelings comes both good and bad, right? Or I should say high and low, high vibration, low vibration feelings. I don't really think there's such thing as a bad feeling. There's an uncomfortable feelings for sure, but bad, I don't know. So that's the first thing, is just gratitude, right? And really taking, especially in the morning, and just sitting there and like in it. And sometimes it's hard, but being grateful for when you're taking a shower, being grateful that you have access to warm water. When you're eating food, being grateful that you have access to food. If you have two legs to walk on, being grateful that you have two legs, two eyes to see, two hands, right? Because there's other people in the world that don't have those things. And it's so easy to get focused on what we don't have, that when we actually really pay attention and really feel grateful for the things we do have, we realize that we actually have a lot in life, that we actually do. I mean, you can find the amazing things you have in your life. If you have someone in your life who loves you, that's something to be grateful for. If you have access to clean water to drink, that's something. If you have access, if you can hear the birds chirping outside, you be grateful you can hear them. Finding things to be grateful for and really feeling that sense of gratitude in the body. One of the ways to find joy in your life. Another way is giving. So, read just a phenomenal little book recently called Happy Money, and it's like $1 on Amazon or something. Loved it. Love every and again, it's a practice 100% that I've done similar things, and I believe in the concept in the book, and I and again, I'm not going to talk about myself here because just would totally defeat the purpose of this. But the idea is that giving is such a powerful thing energetically. And specifically, I am talking about financially here, or gifts, right? And you don't give with the intention of bringing yourself up, because that is giving with the intention of getting. The purest form of giving is the act of giving with no intention of receiving. That's what I believe. And I think when you give in that capacity, there's something powerful about it. One of the reasons I like about Happy Money is that's exactly what the author talks about, is being able to, and so, I mean, I'll encourage you to read the book, because I mean, it's $1. It will take you like 30 minutes to read the book. Probably it's a short book, but the act of what the author talks about is just like the idea of taking, starting with just like $5, right? Like 5 $1 bills, and just leaving them in places where people find them, right? And you're like, that's crazy. But I mean, the act of giving, especially financially, what it does is it demonstrates to God or source or the universe, like this trust that you'll always be provided for. See, a lot of times what happens is when we hold on to our money, and like we literally, like, I'm going to save it, it's mine, I need to hold on to it. We're putting our trust in money as our provider. And then we create a unhealthy relationship with money. But the act of giving, and I mean, in its purest form, I have found brings me the most joy out of most things that I do, right? When I can really give someone, like, my daughter or my wife, they're like, hey, I really want this, and I can help them get that, right? I mean, like, there's something energetically just so powerful about it, and I mean, it brings me great joy to be able to give someone something that is just like, oh man, like this, and you can see it uplifts them, and then it uplifts me as a secondary effect to that. But it's like, and I mean, I guess as I'm talking it out, there is a way of like me, I know that when I give, I feel joy, but I guess I don't do it primarily for myself as much as like, hey, I'm going to try to like really just bring something positive to someone else. And the act of giving, whether it's financially, whether it's your time, whether it's a gift, there's something very powerful about that I do think there's a secondary effect of receiving joy. And that's okay, but I mean, when you can really give in a pure form, I think it's a very powerful thing. And I think it's very, I think it's very helpful, right? And it's definitely an area to find joy in your life. And so, book I just read, Happy Money, highly suggest that as a potential option for you. The last thing is actually forgiving. And I believe to a certain capacity that our default states as humans are actually quite high, quite a high frequency. And what happens a lot of times is when we're in lower states, it's actually not because something happened to us, as much as it is we're holding on to something. We're holding on to fear. We're holding on to guilt. We're holding on to shame. We're holding on to anger. These 4 things specifically, could be other things as well, obviously resentment, contempt. And when we hold on to those feeling states, it naturally brings us down. So oftentimes the way to go up is not to find stuff to bring us up, but to let go of the stuff that's bringing us down. And one of the best ways to do that is forgive. And what a good time at the end of the year to do that. For those of you that celebrate Christmas, obviously there's some greater ideas of forgiveness that we can really go into. The idea of being forgiven. For those of you that don't, that's okay. But it's just really the act of forgiveness. This is what Michael Singer talks about actually in Untethered Soul. He always, uses this analogy of a hot air balloon. And he's like, the best way for the balloon to go up is not to fill it up with more helium if it's already full, but more, it's more to, I'm sorry, not helium, but hot air. And, but it's to actually get rid of the weights that are holding it down. And then the balloon actually just naturally goes up. Same thing is like when we can let go of hurts that we're carrying, right? And the way we carry hurt is we carry it into, anger, right? If we're still angry about something from the past, we're choosing to be angry about it because we haven't forgiven whatever needs to be forgiven. Now, some of you are like, oh, I'm not going to forgive that. That's crazy. Okay, cool. And ask yourself, is that really harming the other person or is it harming you? I'm not saying you need to forget what happens. And if you've been wrong to let the person wrong you again, that's not what I'm saying. But you start to look at, hey, look, what are the things that I'm keeping in here that are holding me back from finding joy? And you start to look at people you hold in contempt, people you resent, people you're angry about, or you're something you're angry about towards a person or towards a situation or whatever, right? Like I can't tell you how many people, this is wild to me. It's crazy to me, but they literally get in a frenzy and get angry about politics, of something completely out of their control. Oftentimes, someone's in office, they don't want an office, something, someone got something that happened in here and here. And we're always caught up in the drama, whatever the news is trying to show us. It's like, stop. How is that good for you? It's like, yes, focus on the things you can control. Vote when you want to vote. Of course, all those things. But if you're caught up in anger and resentment or any kind of these lower vibration feelings, one of the best ways to find your joy is to start letting these go. How do you do that? Well, lots of ways, right? Start with forgiving. Decide that you want to forgive, that you have the capacity to extend forgiveness, right? And really practice it. Really sit and practice it. Sit in silence and actually practice it. If you're resentful or holding contempt for people, if you're angry towards people, especially groups of people, stuff like that, it's like, how can I start to bring love or positivity to those people? It's just a decision on your end. It's really a decision. The belief that you have to hold these feelings is a belief. You do not have to hold them. And am I perfect about this? Not at all. Not at all. Not saying that I am in any way. But when we're talking about finding joy, it's these simple things of, again, focusing on what you're grateful for, giving. I don't think there's a better way for me to bring joy than giving, right? In any capacity that I can, right? And then forgiving, right? Simple ideas, right? Nothing that's gonna blow you out of the water in this episode. But oftentimes it's the simplest things, right? It's Common sense is not common practice, right? And if we can make these things common practice, I can bet you that you'll find more joy in your life. And if that really is the goal and you start looking at within on ways to do that as opposed to without, you're going to find it quicker. Because I promise you, all the goals that you set that you think are going to bring you joy, they won't. And then the fact that they bring you joy, what happens is you just set another goal and you set another goal. And yeah, I mean, I've had it happen several times in my life, reach certain milestones that I thought were going to be like the most pinnacle. Oh, that's when life is going to be perfect. Doesn't happen. Instead, if I understand that joy is to be found right now, and it's my job to find it, forgiving, letting go of the feelings that are holding me back or holding me down, giving, and gratitude. Simple things. And so just some thoughts for the week, as we move into celebrating, Christmas and this holiday season. Lastly, I just want to say that, just very grateful for all of you who are listening. All of you have been listening to the show, whether on YouTube or the podcast. If you're a member of the community that I run with Taking Back Control, that again, I just have tremendous gratitude for doing what I do and getting the opportunity to do what I do. I've some days I feel like I'm luckiest man on the planet. And so, if this has been a helpful show for you or helpful podcast for you in some ways, then please, do me a favor, let me know. I mean, I always love to hear from people. And again, so if you feel, commenting or, writing an email, all that stuff, if you ever want to reach out and again, I love to hear from you guys. I really do. So just wanted to say that as one last thing. And with that, I wish everyone listening a very Merry Christmas, happy holiday, to whatever you celebrate. And as we move into the new year, I'm excited for some of the things that are going to be coming on Restored Minds, because we have some cool things that we're going to be presenting. And my hope is that if you are wrestling with OCD and anxiety, that you really do consider this next year as a transitional year for you. As we're coming up, and we'll talk about next week about setting intentions for the next year and what that looks like. How I do it, and some ideas for yourself. But if this is something that you've wrestled with, especially for an extended period of time, I'd encourage you to really consider to make next year the year that you break free. That's my wish for you, if you're listening, because I've lived in fear and I've lived in that chaos, and I've gotten out, and I know the two differences. And that's the reason that I do these episodes, that we run this show, is because I want you to know that freedom from that fear is possible. And if you're listening, my hope for you is that you make the commitment to make that a reality for yourself. So with that said, Merry Christmas. Hope you guys have a great week. Celebrate with family, see loved ones. And again, practice gratitude, practice giving, and practice forgiving. So thank you guys, and see you guys on the next episode.